play some music or something, like intro music?
There's not going to be music. I'm just going to get right into it. All right. So we're here now, and I'm excited to do this. So I'm here with Mike DeBruzzo from K9-1 Specialized Dog Training. It's really cool to have you here because we met last year. I didn't know who you were, and you started sending me messages.
Oh yeah, I started stalking you. I started stalking Jeff because I needed someone to do better quality videos than what I do on my BlackBerry phone.
You came to me and you were basically like, "Listen, you have to do my videos and you don't have a choice." And I was like, "All right."
Yeah. That's basically what I said, right?
But you have an amazing dog training system. You know, this I was thinking about some things with my dog because I've just gotten over my dog. So I put my dog down about a year ago. So this is kind of important to me. I don't know if you realize it or not, in the sense, like, I really love dogs. That's why I was excited to work with you and your dog training, because I know how much you care about it and what your system does after I learned about it. But like, dogs meant everything to me in my life. Like, I've always had a dog. If I didn't have a dog, I had an imaginary friend when I was like a little kid. So I think that's why my parents got me a dog. But I've like always had a dog. So this means a lot to me. So just thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It means a lot. So we started shooting some stuff, meaning filming, last year over the summer, and we were in like some crazy places. I get to see what you do, and your training covers a lot of different things. And we'll cover all of it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not asking you to come here to be like a sales pitchy thing, but what I got to see you do with certain dogs really was incredible. Oh, I was real quick. I was talking yesterday on the podcast about how you were training mice to play a 3-on-3 basketball game.
Just one. I'm not quite at the 3-on-3. Actually, I'm still working on getting them just to pick up the basketball, rats. But we're coming along. I mean, I was excited. I want to thank you. Before we get started, for inviting me over. I was very excited to come over. Because I see what good of a filmmaker you are. So, and I want to work more with you because of everything that you've done for me so far. And I see you're doing these live events, and I was like, wow, I have something I can now talk to Jeff about besides dogs, because I've been live streaming. Well, mostly behind on the back end of my own website, talking about dogs. And I was like, what? I think I'm going to be prepared for this interview, because I even took some notes. You see,
don't even treat it like an interview.
I took some notes, but this is seriously what I did. I was like, oh, because you asked me if I could do this, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this one time, 11 o'clock, and of course I'm usually not that prepared because I'm running around doing everything. So I took out the notepad. I just want to. These are my real notes.
Okay.
Number one, and I'm glad this is mostly a podcast so people don't see me, because the number one thing I put that I learned from doing live streaming myself is I put down, don't drool. That was my number one.
That was your first note.
My first thing, don't drool. I'm constantly drooling. And then even Judy, when I came over, I was like, don't drool. And it's like, you have to learn to, he says, you have to learn to swallow when you're talking. I guess I keep talking. I just drool all over myself. She said,
well, listen, drool. You have all the time. We could sit here for 8 hours if we want to. So breathe.
I said, don't. I was like, oh, and I won't drink water for like 24 hours. So it'll keep me from. I didn't even crack it open. That was my first thing.
Listen, and if you need to use the restroom, you can excuse yourself. It's okay.
Wait, number two.
Oh, that was only number one.
That was only number one. Number two, which I like, since this is a podcast, but we're also on YouTube over here. I notice your webcam is way above my head, like a bird's eye
that's
view.
just the TV.
That's the TV. Oh.
So it's mirrored. I got too many toys in here.
Yeah. I've learned that from watching women doing selfies mostly. The higher you put the camera above your head, it makes me look better.
You know why women do that?
Why?
The double chin.
The double chin. That's how I'm starting
it's all about. If you ever take a picture of a woman, do not shoot from like below her face up. They will curse you out.
That's for me. Then the next thing, but I see I was going to do push-ups first. I was going to do push-ups before the camera started going.
Oh, I should bring my trampoline, little trampoline in here, so you can jump on that instead.
Push-ups, but that was my. That's my advice to anybody that's going to be on on camera. No, but
real quick, this is
yeah.
what people need to know about you, because I'm amazed by you. Like, not only do you have a massive following on YouTube, I think you're up to like, you're over 240,000 subscribers or something like that. But you also like do everything yourself. Like when you were just talking about, you do like live streams on the back end of your website. You don't have a web guy. You're the web guy.
Oh yeah,
it's so amazing. Like you're like a coder, you're a dog trainer, like you're a brain. And I think that's why me and you are able to just talk endlessly, because you're a wealth of information in certain things. Like if you don't know about something, you say it, but you know a lot.
well,
so for you to be able to do all this is fascinating.
Well, I mean, I feel
and I don't know what drives you. It's like,
well, I will be a little cocky as far as like, I know a lot about dogs because I'm obsessed with them. Animals in general. I've always been an animal lover. As far as like being a webmaster and setting that stuff, starting to set that stuff up, most of that has been like trial and error, and like that attitude, like if you need something done right, you need to do it yourself sometimes, except for videoing. That's why I came to you. So what would happen is what would take like a professional something like 2 minutes to do when it came to like my website, I would sit there for like 2 hours trying to find the right code and tweak and make a website so I could deliver information. I mean, the whole business, a lot of people that are running their own business, they find themselves doing that. And some of it's always financial.
You become
like,
everything when you run your own business, especially when you first start. You're the accountant, you're the marketing person, you're the video producer, you're the coder, you're everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything. You're doing everything. And that's anyone who runs their own business. So I've been running K9-1. I mean, technically I incorporated in 1998 that particular business for dog training, and I loved it. It was my dream job. It still is my dream job.
You are living the dream. Like I say that as a joke sometimes. People like, hey, what's going on? Like, there's another day in paradise, living the dream.
Yeah,
but I think you are.
Yeah, well, we know what happens when you run your own business. I think this is true for anyone. Like when I first started training, I was the one training all the dogs. I was in the trenches and I was doing the hands-on with every dog. And a lot of new dog trainers start off that way, is they actually start off by taking people's dogs and they're doing all the training themselves.
Right.
And I think that's good. I think that's one of the best ways for a new dog trainer to start, because you need to be able to do it. You need to be able to get your experience. You need to get the experience, learn the mechanics of how to do it.
You probably need to mess up a whole bunch.
Yeah, you need to mess up. You need trial and error. You need to do it. So I was not only was I working for myself, I was subcontracting for other trainers. I was like, here, if you have any dogs that need trained, bring them to me. So I was just training hands-on lots of dogs.
Any type of dog, right? It didn't matter.
Any type of dog. But then what happens is eventually, too, even though I was doing private lessons where you're telling somebody else how to train their dog, I started doing more and more of that too, which I find is a higher difficulty level for anyone, for any profession. Like you learn how to you're doing filmmaking, you can do it yourself, but it's that much more difficult if you're coaching someone else how to edit their own video.
And then there's like quality control.
Yeah,
like
quality control and things like that. So that was always like the next step up for me, which I really started enjoying, training other people how to train their own dogs and the actual breakdown and the technicalities of it. And that was really how my business started evolving. First is like, I want to break this down. So if someone trains their dog under my instruction, I want it to be at least as good quality as they see from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then what started happening, especially when I started getting involved with the Paladin Center, and they have a giant facility, and I had 140,000 square feet of training area to work with. The sky was the limit as far as how large I can make my group classes.
So just for people listening, the Paladin Center is basically like like a training ground, like a gun range for law enforcement. Like it's just this empty building, basically, right?
Yeah.
In Carmel.
Well, Paladin Center, it's in Carmel, New York, and they do a lot of training for first responders. They have everything there for first responder training, to do scenario training, and they have like gun ranges and a gun store and things like that.
It's just a grown-up playground.
Oh, it's a playground for grown-ups, but they do a lot of serious training there and innovative training there. So I got involved with them to do their canine programs over there. So I was mostly doing personal protection training there with dogs, but I was doing, you know, I was still holding the puppy classes and the regular obedience. But
just so real quick, just to finish on the Paladin Center, just because that's where we did a lot of filming last summer. What you're able to do in there, because it's like you said, situational or scenarios. So they have different rooms in there. Like they have rooms that look like a bodega or like a, you know, a typical convenience store, where they probably use it for law enforcement, like if there's a burglary or something like that. But now you use it because you'll take, you know, they have like a fake cashier. You could set up, you know, like Foley actors, so to speak, like they're role playing, I should say.
yes.
And you might have like a cashier and other, you know, consumers or shoppers in the store, and then the handler, is that what you call them, dog handlers or dog owners?
Yeah, the dog handler.
They like walk the dog through this scenario, and there might be, you know, it might be a surprise, like they don't always know what's going on. So that's just the type of things that you can do. And then all of a sudden somebody's getting attacked and the dog has to respond and the handler has to give certain commands, and then you basically grade them in a sense after and have this debrief and be like, listen, you could have done this better, this is where you messed up, this was great, oh, this was only your first time, your dog's good, this is what your dog is meant to. So just a scenario with like live education. It's really cool what you do. So I just want people to really understand what happens in the Paladin Center, because I've never seen anything like that.
Oh
before.
Yeah,
I've only seen that in military training. Like when I did a military show, I saw that where there was scenarios and they have different obstacles and things like that. You do that for dogs. It's fascinating.
Yeah, so it was great. So all our classes we'd run at the Paladin Center, and I think this is a good idea for anyone that has access to something like that to run classes like this. We would always have the first part of the day where we're training techniques, and it's very controlled. You know, we'd be in like open, plain training areas. We would use barriers. We would use a warehouse that had a lot of visual barriers so the dogs would not be overly stimulated from each other or other handlers, where our trainers could then just work directly and work with the technicals of how to train and handle their dogs, because they need that sort of concentration at that point. Then the second half of the training day is where we would do the scenarios. It's like, okay, we taught you these things. Let's see if you can handle all this while there's chaos going on and people talking to you and people trying to pet your dog, or potentially someone just jumping out of a doorway and tackling you, you know? So, and it was just tons of fun. It's tons of fun. So, right now we're not doing those classes. You know, those classes are on hold. Paladin Center looks like it may be changing locations, and I'm working on some other classes right now. And then I do want to get back to 2 more classes, but that was always my favorite thing about training. So like, you know, going back to, I started off training dogs myself and then training individual people, then being able to communicate to a lot of people at once, and have them all be successful with their dogs and have well-trained dogs. To me, that was the biggest challenge, and it's the most rewarding when you see it. So what happens as the more people you're trying to train at once, it forces you, or else you will not be able to be successful with it, is to make your training more and more technical. So even what seems like difficult training can be easy.
So like what, when you say like something that would be difficult, what do most trainers see as difficult training?
I would say we see a dog, let's say a dog trained to obey off leash around people yelling and screaming, that can be controlled and can also do personal protection on command off leash against multiple people, then be controlled again, and then walk off of the scene as if nothing happened. So those are the kind of things that would happen in the advanced classes, or even when we would do things like, you know, I would run a class for teaching dogs how to find specific odors. That
was really cool when we did the scent detection stuff.
Or tracking or agility. Sometimes if someone's like new to training or they just got a dog and they see dogs doing these things, it's like, wow, that must be so much work. But when you break down the training the right way, it's actually just a lot of very, very easy steps just done in the right order. But just do this little easy step. Do you understand it? Does the dog understand it? Go to the next step.
And you start basically wherever the dog or the handler or trainer is ready for. So, because I know the thing I heard you repeat a lot when we were filming was you want to set this dog up for success. You do not want to do a training where this dog just fails and gets confused and doesn't understand what just happened. So you won't put a dog in these advanced things if they're not ready for it. You got to start with, I don't know, just sit, just listen to me, or
Yeah.
something.
And you know, my training style, every trainer has like their own style, right? I always called mine foundation style dog training because I've always put an emphasis on, does the dog have the right foundation to move to the next step of training? So if someone would call me up, and my personal protection videos were always popular. That's why my YouTube channel was pretty popular. Was people like to see dogs doing personal protection training.
I still don't understand how you did that.
And
I don't understand how you got that many subscribers.
People love violence.
Well, I think part of it, you started early, like when you were.
Oh, yes,
you were one of the first, I would say.
Yeah, as far as like the
you were
YouTube
consistent,
channel,
I imagine.
Yeah, because I have my YouTube channel has. It gets, I mean, I regularly, and I don't even remember the last video I posted on there. I don't post that often, and it's not a big part of what I do. I go in spurts. I mean, I regularly get like, and for me, it doesn't really touch the YouTube channel. I regularly get about 150 new subscribers per day, just on autopilot. A lot of that is just my videos are discovered, and
well, you have everything. I mean, you even have like some of your most viewed, because I was looking at it, was just, obviously people look up, a big Google search that people do is how to, whether how to, do this myself, how to, like, I have these shelves in here. It was like how to make these shelves on my own. So people Google how to teach a dog to sit, how to do this. And those are some of like your most popular videos. And like you said, it's like simple instruction. Like you watch one of your trainers that I imagine that you trained and coached, and she's like teaching this dog how to sit. And it's like, you're like, oh, that's so simple. And I don't know, some of these people I think they get complicated about how to train a dog. And another thing, I know we're kind of going off what you were talking about, but another thing that you said that I really appreciated was that it's almost like you're working with the person more than the dog. And I think the person gets a lot, like more, like I watched Judy, who was one of the trainers, and Joe, who had like Wolfen, and who's Judy's dog?
Boone.
And, we did interviews with them, and you see how them taking on a dog and training the dog actually made them change certain things in their lives.
Absolutely.
Dude, that is so powerful. Like, it's not just this dog that's designed to do things for you. It's a relationship.
Training can be very therapeutic to people, to train dogs if it's done the right way. And if the goal of the trainer working with the owner is to improve the relationship and the quality of life of both the dog and the person, or where most trainers, in my opinion, when they go work with the client, is their goal is, I'm going to improve the life of this dog owner because they called me up and they have a problem and I'm going to fix it. And things can go wrong very easily when we only have the dog owner in mind, because we don't consider the dog. And ultimately, if the owner loves that dog, they are going to see that their dog is not happy with what they're doing, right? So if they're focused too much on just punishing behavior, and now their dog is not lunging on the walks or pulling or not barking, but the dog looks miserable because its relationship has just turned into an owner that is punishing the dog all the time, things can slip. Not only is there potential side effects that can make the training go backwards anyway, sometimes the owner, they don't enjoy doing it. And then they will not keep doing what that trainer told them to do. And they're just kind of back to square one anyway. And you didn't really improve anything. Where if training is done the right way and you focus on, let's understand this dog and what is this dog trying to tell us through its bad behavior, we can then go make a plan that's going to make sense to the dog and the owner. And you will see them just grow together. You mentioned one client Judy, right? That you've done some filming of. We'll eventually be able to see more of that. But she was one of my favorite projects, because she had a German Shepherd, an American showline German Shepherd, which the breeder was selectively breeding just for the dog to look pretty. These dogs to look pretty in the show ring, and to be able to sell them as family pets. All right. So the breeder's main hobby was pretty dogs in the show ring. But of course, we're selling these as good family pets. And that's all that Judy wanted. So she got this German Shepherd, and it just was not what she signed up for. It was very aggressive, a little more fearful than you would want from a German Shepherd, and a stronger personality that would deal with that fear with extreme violent aggression that would scare the heck out of people. I mean, she would walk this dog down the road, and it didn't matter if it was a Girl Scout on the other side of the road. The dog was lunging at it. And I saw it with my own eyes. It just wanted to, I am unsure of what this is, and I am going to deal with it by taking it out. So she went to a veterinary behaviorist that basically, say medicate the dog, and wasn't really working. She went to a trainer.
Well, yeah, because that's medication. Like for most, I mean, even if it's a human, a lot of times medicinal intervention is a lot of times just a quick fix.
Yeah,
but it's not an answer to the underlying issue.
Absolutely. And it could be valid. It could be part of a plan to take the edge, just like it could help take the edge off of a person while they're going through some sort of treatment. It could take the edge off of a dog. And in extreme cases where a dog may really have some genetic disadvantages, I'm not against long-term medication on an animal if it for sure gives it a better quality of life, and it's not just being used as a crutch. But owners like her, she was lost. One trainer that was using mostly just rewards, didn't believe in punishment, which is fine if someone can offer a good service just doing that route. When a trainer like that didn't get results with Boone, it just becomes, well, this is just a bad dog, Well,
and I know Boone is a German Shepherd, so a lot of people are like, oh, that's because it's a German Shepherd. I'm sure there was an element of that as well, which is not a true statement.
Yeah, well, and then
because to fast forward a little bit, I think where you're going to go with this, at least this is what I learned, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Boone, it's almost like the things that you were doing before with Boone, or however Boone was brought up, was not what that dog was designed to do. Like you weren't. It's almost like Einstein's thing. It's like if a fish. I think Einstein said if a fish tried to climb a tree, it would spend its whole life thinking it was stupid.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so the German Shepherd is not meant to be like a lap dog.
Yeah.
It's meant. It's I mean, you can talk about this, but it's like its background of a German Shepherd was to protect. Yes. It's not a bad dog, but so if it protects, if it's fulfilling its purpose, that dog is going to be happy.
Yes.
And it's so true. Yes. It's so some of these things are so interconnected with humans and with life, because we're all like that. If you weren't training dogs and this wasn't fulfilling your purpose, you'd be a wreck. Right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's like it's they're very similar. We're very similar to dogs, as we have.
Because you use behavioral things, right? Like it was an ABA, or
it's the same thing.
It's similar concepts.
Most anyone that does study psychology or applied behavior analysis or anything, everything we know about modifying behavior has been learned on animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ivan Pavlov, it was dogs. Skinner, same thing. It was rats, pigeons, things like that. We learned it all on animals first because we're the same. I mean, we're the same thing as animals. We all have two eyes, two noses. Everything that we're dealing with, we're very similar, except we're just a more gluttonous species, basically. And we could, we're better problem solvers to fulfill that gluttonous spirit of ours, right? But
well, I feel like at the core of it, most animals and humans are pleasure seekers.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we want to seek pleasure. That's people go the wrong way. They do stuff like drugs. I don't know when dogs go the wrong way, I don't know what they do, but it's not drugs. But they probably exhibit abnormal behavior.
Yeah, they try to fulfill something. You know, they try to fulfill something, you know, for that need. So if you have an animal that was for centuries has been bred to herd livestock and chase them around, and there's no livestock, they're going to be chasing around something else, the kids in the yard that are running around. You have a German Shepherd, and they have been selectively bred primarily, and this blood, they are a pure breed of dog because there was this foundation stock that had the characteristics that were needed, and we stayed within that gene pool. So if someone now wants to make a German Shepherd that one of its roles was to protect, to just be like a lap dog, they're going to need to be trying really hard to keep those genetics in check with their selective breeding.
You're fighting against nature.
You're fighting against it. And that's what happened with Boone. You know, so you went from the treat trainer to another trainer that just wanted to punish. And it was, but the focus was trying to make her happy by changing what the dog really is, you know, and making it sound like what this dog is bad. This is a bad dog, and we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it with medication, or we're going to pummel this thing with leash corrections, you know, to get this dog to know its place. This is not how it's supposed to act. And you know, so when I came and saw that particular dog, I saw right away his personality type, and it's like, oh, this dog is being aggressive. You need to understand the dog. This was, I mean, when I was dealing with this dog, he was still pretty young. He wasn't that old. I think he was not much over 1 year. He has not been on this earth for a very long period of time. And almost everything new he was unsure of first, or suspicious of first by default, because
it was a state of mind, basically.
It was a state of mind, and in some cases that's a good thing. All right. In some cases, that's why I've had plenty of people that called me for the opposite reason, that people could just walk up to their door or come into their yard and their German Shepherd doesn't care, you know. And I could probably offer a service where I just have people trade dogs with each other. Right. It's like, oh, you want an aggressive one? You want one that doesn't show any aggression? You know, just like,
what was that reality show, like Wife Swap or something?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, like what, dog swap, pet swap. But it's actually when an owner knows that the first thing you teach an owner is to appreciate their dog for what it is. All right, it's like there's nothing wrong with your dog. It may not be the situation, the best situation for the dog, but the dog himself, he's going to shine. He's going to shine in some form or another if you put him in the right situation and appreciate him for what he is. And that's what he did. It's like, let's not pummel the aggression out of him. Appreciate the aggression. And we worked on the relationship and leadership. So instead of teaching the dog that it's bad to be aggressive, we just taught the dog that it's okay to be aggressive sometimes, and the world can be a scary place. And we let the dog sometimes get to bite people, and instead of being pummeled for it and yelled at for it, get the owner behind them, petting them and saying, what a good boy. You're my protector. I love you, you know, instead of what a bad dog all the time. All right. And, you know, once we kind of went that route with the dog like that, things fell into place. The dog became less aggressive from an outsider's point of view because the dog now had an outlet. It's not as scary anymore when you walk by the Girl Scout, right? When you're going and you're practicing.
It was like controlled aggression.
Controlled aggression. Yeah,
you can behave that way when I say it's okay, and you'll be happy, and we'll have fun together.
You know, and like tech people, and I tell people I do personal protection training with dogs. It's not really technically what I'm doing is I don't train dogs to be aggressive. I train people how to control their dog's aggression. The dogs have the aggression. I don't make them aggressive.
Right.
It's the best dogs that do personal protection dogs that are personal protection. dogs or police dogs, they naturally have the instinct. You see people, it's becoming more popular with like Dutch Shepherds and Belgian Malinois. These dogs come out of the womb. I mean, as soon as these things could hobble, they're latching onto people's legs with like full mouth grips.
And
then
there is a specific reason why dogs bite ankles, right?
bite ankles. Yeah, it's fulfilling that need to grip.
But that's like
And
old genetic too, right?
It's all genetics, and you got to look at the history of a lot of these dogs that people are using for police work, and or are calling trainers in the droves now because they're having aggression problems, because it's a problem for them, because they purchased a dog as a service dog that's supposed to be non-aggressive and walk around in public, which has generations and generations of genetics that were selectively bred to bite people and to enjoy it. And then before that, and the reason why you see these, and the whole reason why German Shepherds, and because remember, German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, which are becoming popular, these were
Belgian Malinois?
Belgian Malinois, also known in America as Malinois, but people don't know how to pronounce it.
Belgian Malinois.
Malinois.
That's just fun to say.
Yeah, Malinois.
And real quick, because you're talking about abuse and like what they did to Boone and all this stuff, because I want to get into like allowing him to bite in your bite club, which is such a cool visual to see. And you guys are kind of crazy for doing that, but there's your system. There's no abuse.
No,
you don't need to. You don't need to strangle a dog. You don't need. I don't even know what it needs. There needs to be, I guess, a consequence, but it's not abuse, or it's a reward system.
Well, training should be scientific. You know, anyone that's is training at the level of a professional. I mean, when I'm talking to a client or someone needs help, right, I'm going to talk in layman's terms, all right? But if I'm training a trainer, you know, training is scientific. So there's abuse has no role in dog training, just like it has no role in raising a child or anything like that. Although punishment for sure is needed and valid for most training where you need to discourage certain behaviors, and punishment is to discourage. That's all as it is.
Right.
Now, punishment can be abused, right? Just like even using rewards in training can be abused. But it's
you can actually give a dog too much,
or
like too many bones.
Or I'll give you an example. Well, yes, you can abuse by giving too little or too much.
So or even like, I know you're pretty strict on, I wouldn't say strict. I mean, I guess people can do whatever they want, but your recommendation, and I don't know if this is what you mean, is like the dog should not sleep in the bed with you, right? Are you pretty strict on that? Or like on the couch, like they shouldn't go on there like they should expect to.
Yes and no. I wouldn't call myself strict. Like if I see someone with their dog like on the couch, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, you horrible person."
Right.
But if someone calls me up and they're having lots of issues that are related to the dog being unclear about its needs and
boundaries,
about boundaries. And I'll give you an example, because the whole bed thing is, if I really want to turn a lot of people against me quickly, I put a post about don't let your dogs on the bed, all right, or the couch, because then you know what you're going to get. You're going to get if you do like on social media, you're going to get a long list of people posting their dogs cuddled up in the bed with them, all happy, and how their dog doesn't have any issues and stuff like that. And that's true. Most people do that, you know, and I'm fine. I have a dog, I have a little dog that will jump in the bed with the kids and stuff like that, and she's fine if it's not causing a problem. Now, will she also
just keep the mic close to you? I see you starting.
Will she also pee on the bed if she has some sort of conflict about a visitor that now laid in the bed that she thinks is hers? Yes, sometimes she will, right? Now, are there people who have children that have gotten bitten in the face because their dog had conflict over whose bed it really was and it didn't want to get off the bed? Yes. So it's potential it's a potential area of conflict with certain dogs, with certain personality types.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And
I was hoping in a way you didn't discourage it, because one of my
yeah,
favorite things as when I had my dog was, I mean, she slept with me every night, and then like it was so interesting what she did, because I would get up in the morning. So like, you know, I would sleep on my bed. She would always sleep by my feet. And I'd get up in the morning to like go brush my teeth and shower. And I'd come back and she'd be laying in the spot that I was in with her head on the pillow.
yeah,
That was like special moments. I was like, and I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what is she trying to tell me? That like, I love your spot. Like, I like your smell and where you were. And like,
yeah.
there's something she was communicating something.
And that's
And maybe it's just love.
it's love, and that's and that's one of the reasons why we have been walking this earth with dogs for as long as we've been humans, right? I mean, there's evidence that we've been walking beside them for 100,000 years.
Mm.
Even if they were technically still basically wolves at that time, there's undisputed evidence by around 15,000 years ago that they are what we would consider domesticated.
Because we needed them to hunt, or I mean, what do you think the main purpose was? Even 100,000 years ago, I mean, were they just following us as scavengers and looking for extra food?
I believe, in most evidence suggests that it was very mutual.
It benefited both of us.
It benefited both of us. It obviously made humans much more productive. Easier for us to hunt, easier for us to protect ourselves.
Well, our nose is not as good as
our
theirs,
nose
right?
is not as good as good. I mean, all their senses are pretty much better than ours. They're superior species. So we're just better problem solvers, right? We're better problem solvers, and we were able to help them out. We worked great together as a team, and even our social structure is so similar that we get along great with each other. When I first started training dogs, it was drilled into me, the word anthropomorphism.
Anthropomorphism.
Maybe I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it basically means do not give like human-like characteristics to a dog, which can be true to a degree. But through like well over 20 years of training, I mean, I've really been technically training on a regular basis since about 1994, I would say. So it's really like 24 years. That was drilled into me. So we get used to repeating things that someone who we respect tells us, and I would hear it from like every type of mentor or book or this, don't anthropomorphize. But what I learned through the years is, we're way more similar than we are different. Like, I like to emphasize more now of how similar we really are. It's the very most primitive emotions and our drives that we share with all animals. Things like fear and hunger and love. I mean, you go on YouTube and take a look around. You'll watch a rat defending its babies from a snake, like 10 times the size of it. This is no different from, you will see an elderly woman get out of her car to defend her daughter from a tiger at a safari. We do the same things, and we love for sure. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for love. Since we were walking on all fours, love is the reason why we are here. It's the reason why all these animals are over here. All these things.
Yeah, it's probably why we prevailed.
Yes,
in a lot of ways.
Yes, it's the driving force of most animals, and the dogs for certain love us, and they bond with us, and I for sure took advantage of this in the training. My personal protection training that I have gotten a lot of recognition for. The reason why I believe I was successful at it is I went with Mother Nature, not against it. When I train a real personal protection dog for someone, I do not focus it on a lot of these things you may typically see. where people are working on like swinging around tugs and having the dog bite a certain way, and they're trying to teach a dog how to bite most effectively, and they're focusing on like basically the martial art of actually biting, the how to bite. What I've learned through working with a lot of aggressive dogs is a bite, for the most part, a lot of times is a bite. No one wants to get bitten by a dog.
No,
All right.
it hurts.
You do not need this perfect bite. If a dog's canine teeth go through your skin and it moves its head around, you are hurting. You don't want to continue what you were doing. You'd rather do something else. And
even when you guys wear those bite suits, there was a dog last summer that you still had bruises on you. And I don't know what that stuff is made out of, but it's thick.
Yeah, there's pressure.
Like, honestly, if I took a knife and tried to stab you, it may not reach you. Like, it may stop a knife. But the dogs, too, you guys would just have like these welts on your arms.
Yeah, the pressure that these dogs can apply with their,
and it's almost like they know where to get you. A little bit, they know. Like, do they want to go after your throat naturally?
No, well,
or do they go after? Or do you have to train them where to bite?
And that's the thing. In training, often when you do formal protection training, you're actually training the dog to be even safer. They bite because a lot of this is based off of like old police work type of training, right? So police, and they do not train dogs to maul people. That's not what they're supposed to do. They train them to hold people and not hurt them. I mean, it's supposed to hurt and be a deterrent. Stop or I'll send my dog. Right? Like, all right. It gives a lot of people reason to stop running. But even when people challenge it, police dogs would not last very long or be good in public eye if they were like ripping people's throats out or like regularly like crippling people or disfiguring them for life or killing people. The whole reason why German Shepherds became popular as police dogs, if you go back in history, was because they would bite. They were used mostly for biting sheep. They were using them to grab and discourage sheep from moving out away from the flock. And they were selectively bred to have what was called a calm, full mouth bite. And so they would use all the surface area of their mouth. So it's actually less damage when you're using all the surface area of the mouth. You're getting one grip.
Right.
They were not supposed to shake. And a lot of these old time breeders that were breeding their own dogs for their own purposes because they needed these dogs to keep these sheep in check and not kill them or hurt them or cause injury, they would choose their breeding stock while these things were still puppies. They would let these puppies loose on the sheep, and the ones that would go to bite the head or bite the legs, like the areas where the legs and ankles could be broken, they would not selectively breed them. They would selectively breed the ones that would go over the top and hit these like really meaty areas with a full mouth and would not shake or try to mouth. Their teeth would just be in the wool. It would hurt.
Because it would be bad if they damaged the sheep.
Yes. Yeah. And people forget this
That's
fact.
Amazing that you can just train a dog to do that.
You don't train the dog. They're born doing it.
They're born.
All we train them to do is to obey, is to do it, to do what's natural or not do it.
So the German Shepherd specifically has a natural instinct to bite and preserve that animal in a sense.
The ones that are bred the right way. Right. So if it's selectively bred the right way, and you will see that with police dogs. If a police officer wants a good police dog, it used to be, you go back a decade ago or more, certainly 20 years ago, they had to deal with importers that were importing the good dogs over that were being bred specifically for that. It just wasn't happening large scale in the US. Now you're getting better quality dogs that are bred in the US. And you will see when people choose a dog for their breeding program or for the future, they're looking at the natural things. They're looking at, you can see, when they're choosing a puppy for work and purpose, like police work, they're not really looking at how the dog looks or or it's conformation, even though that is important to a degree. You know, if they're not built for the job, they're going to break down, right? Not be able to perform. But the things they're looking for is before any formal training is when they cut these little puppies and someone's running around wearing, you know, their thick pants, does this thing naturally grab and hold with its full mouth on the leg? These are the kind of things that they're looking for. No one really trains them to do that. And so sometimes you'll see a trainer and they have this adult dog and it's doing all this stuff, including a full mouth bite. You can't give that trainer too much credit. You know, you give them credit. If it was a good dog, you give them credit for not messing it up. Right? It's more of a problem that you may mess up what the dog was born with in the process of trying to get of controlling that instinct, because you cannot let the dog just go around doing that whenever it wants, right? And all breeds, if you look at all breeds that had a job, the common denominator of all of them is the thing that they were good at is natural. Good beagles naturally want to hunt rabbits. Coonhounds naturally want to hunt raccoons. Border collies naturally want to stalk and herd sheep. Australian cattle dogs naturally want to chase cattle and nip at the heels. Or, you know, but the other common thing is everyone who needs to control these dogs, their focus is not on teaching them how to do that. It's just teaching them how to stop doing that and when to do that. And that's why,
because you don't want to be out in public and all of a sudden that dog goes, I see something, squirrel moment, you know, and darts off. You want to be able to be like, whoa, hang on for a second.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Everything is like that. Hunting dogs, pointers, Cocker Spaniels, Springer Spaniels, they want to hunt birds. We would just go out in the field and tell them to wait. Don't stay by me right now. Or you did what you were supposed to do. Now come back to me. Or, you know, it was just control.
You make me think about my dog Zoe. So Zoe was, and just Mike, just lift up a little bit. Just to lift up the mic. You're in a good spot. Yeah, just a little bit. Zoe was German Shepherd, half German Shepherd. At least they told me. And the other half was a husky, and I believe it was like a specifically Siberian husky. I remember seeing the mom. The mom was like very gray. I only saw the mom, so they told me the dad was German Shepherd. I believed it. I don't know. Who knows? You can't prove it. But so Zoe loved to chase chipmunks into the hole and then like stuff her snout in there and like dig up the hole. And she also loved to chase deer and turkey. Like flying turkey. So it would make her so, you would like see her face. We'd let her out. She'd be up if she saw a deer in the yard, she would get up on the window and just be like, just staring at it. Like nothing else mattered. Just staring at this deer. I'm going to tell you a funny story about this. So one day, this was when I was living at home. This was a long time ago. My dad let out the dog because my dad is pretty avid gardener, and the deer would come and eat like stuff that he was trying to grow, like his herbs or whatever he was doing. So Zoe was like the protector of this garden, basically. So deer would be in the lawn and my dad would get her like all riled up. So Zoe would go chase them off into the woods and then a lot of the time stop at the yard line and let them continue running and just come back to you with like tongue hanging out, so happy. And she was just looking for probably validation at that point, which we gave her because it was like, you're awesome. Like, like you came back. What is this? But I feel like, so I'm curious to see what your thought is on this. There was a time, basically, I'm going to cut to the end a little bit. Zoe became friends with this deer. So Zoe would chase the deer into the woods and keep on following it. So Zoe was gone for like a half hour. Zoe comes back. We see her like trotting, like doing that happy thing back into the yard. And then 15 feet behind her was the deer. Like they were playing together in the woods. Wow, and you're just like, what happened? Did they like develop a relationship? Because Zoe chased and then didn't kill them or didn't attack them. And the deer was like, oh, maybe this is our friend. And they became like buddies. I don't know how you explain that.
Yeah, no, it's
because some of her DNA is to hunt. And I imagine huskies were just meant to travel. I mean, that's what the stereotype of a husky is, right? like
Yeah.
sled dogs.
Well, there's a lot of things to consider. Well, yeah.
I know there's probably not enough information and all that, but
I mean,
it's so fascinating.
Which you have with a lot of dogs, there's something called neoteny. All right. And what that is, that's the retention of juvenile-like traits, usually in this case, in domesticated animals. So play is practice in all animals, right? It's practice for what they need to do as an adult. So you watch dogs play. What does it look like? They're practice hunting each other. They're practice fighting. They're practice doing all kinds of things. And even in human children, we play like cops and robbers, or we play house, or we do this or that. So dogs in general, the average domesticated dog, through the domesticated process, in a lot of ways, they're basically a wolf that got arrested in a juvenile state. So when she's out there and she's chasing these things, she may not necessarily have the instinct to actually kill it, or that might not be her desire. There's something about this role playing that is fulfilling to her. And
she probably just felt like she was making us happy.
Yeah, and
in a lot of ways,
and
right?
of course it's fulfilling, it's fulfilling a need, and she is telling you what she enjoys doing. She likes chasing those animals, right? So so when she finally got to a deer, and maybe it wasn't running away anymore, and there was nothing fulfilling about going in for the kill. It was the chasing part that
this
was
dog
fun.
wouldn't even kill a moth. Like she just didn't kill anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't in her.
Yeah, and you'll see that, and there's a lot of dogs that's purposely selectively bred into, where they're not really should be killing, but we need them to chase, and you'll see that with most herding breeds. You have something called the predatory sequence, and that involves everything that involves in the process of hunting down, killing, and eating a prey animal is that sequence. But selective breeding is so amazing because you can just like chip away at those genetics and keep or get rid of whatever you want, and you could toggle everything. So if someone needs a dog that will stalk sheep and chase after them but not kill them, it's not that difficult over generations to selectively breed dogs to do that, mostly by looking at the early characteristics in puppies, right? And then also selectively breeding and inbreeding to the ones that do that. And that's why we have certain breeds. But majority of our domesticated dogs were not really bred to kill anything. They're mostly bred to kind of keep things in check and chase things and keep things at bay. And the humans were the real killers in most of the cases. I mean, there's instances, things like there's the whole terrier group. That's one exception where you have like pretty much most of the dogs have terrier after their name. They were bred usually to go underground and kill animals as part of hunting, right? So you'd have
was that, do you think, to protect the crops? I mean, that was for, or
no,
just
a lot of it was for sport. A lot of it was to rid rats and things like that from farms. So if you have an invasion of rats on a farm, if you have a dog that you selectively breed that enjoys killing small animals and not even necessarily eat them, it'll go around and kill way more than it needs. All right. It'll go around and kill 50 rats in a day and not sit there and just eat it and be like, all right, I'm all full. All right. So, and that's another reason why domestication is good. Even a wolf. And I was lucky enough to be able to work closely with a wolf that was kept as a pet and train it. And one thing that I was never really thought about, and I noticed it, before I worked with her, and I noticed when I worked with her, is you would think a wolf would want to chase after every squirrel it sees, every deer it sees, things like that. This thing was out in public and like wooded areas with it all the time. It barely paid attention to these things. You know why? Because it was fed. It was fed raw meat at home. It had a full belly. A wolf that would just be running around. They're in the woods. There's animals all over. It's not going to run around and waste all of its energy just killing for the enjoyment of it. We can selectively breed a dog to do that, but that's why understanding that dog and what its history is, where it came from, it's often these things that get dogs in trouble is what made them great and useful a few generations back, sometimes even one generation back, or that dog can still be useful if it was just in a different environment. All right. But, we get a Jack Russell Terrier because it's cute. And we remember we saw one on Frasier and we love that show. And then you just want it to like cuddle on the couch with your son while he's holding his hamster. And then, then your dog grabs the hamster, gives it a few shakes and tosses it across the room, and everyone's crying and calling the trainer. And that's how it starts. All right. The medication, the jerks on the leash and everything like that.
You make me think. I know a hot topic has been for years. I think people are coming around on it, but just let's debunk a myth real quick, is about just that, like there's problem dogs. So obviously there was stuff on pit bulls, and people think like all pit bulls, like they scare. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When you walk by a pit bull on the street, you don't want to you want to make sure you're safe. But I don't think that pit bulls are just like they're not like these animals that just want to kill. Like you're talking about wolves, like pit bull. Like you can train a pit bull. You can have a loving pit bull that's going to play with children. Like not every pit bull is like. So I don't know what happens in those cases that obviously with news they want to. Not to make a total knock on news, but obviously they need to sell their story. So when a pit bull, does something crazy, they run with that story, but it's not even probably close to, I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's not what they make it seem.
Yeah,
with pit bulls. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no.
Same thing with German Shepherds. It's like, come on, German Shepherds are great dogs. You just got to do the right thing with them.
I mean, the whole thing with pit bulls, it could be a sensitive subject because they can be discriminated against, but at the same time, you don't want to ever sugarcoat anything.
Sure.
Right? Now this is true with all dogs. Dogs in general, the reason why we have them is because we wanted to exploit their aggression. There's no doubt about it. Aggression in dogs is what made them useful for us. If we did not have dogs, we needed them to help us hunt, to protect our flocks, to kill things. Like that's why we have them. There's very few dogs that were selectively bred just to sit on our lap. And they're most of those breeds are little fuzzy, cute dogs, and are actually some of the most aggressive ones you'll find anyway.
Well, I was going to say, right? I wanted to talk about Chihuahuas because Chihuahuas always want to bite something, and they hurt so much when you get bit by a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
And they're so protective. Like, where does that come from? I call it SPS. I used to have this friend who was like 5'1", and he was always trying to fight everybody. And I used to tell him he had SPS, and he's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "That's small person syndrome." Napoleon complex. It's the same idea, but I think Chihuahuas have like it's maybe not that, but they have some sort of complex.
Yeah,
and when they're around their owner, like you can't go near that dog.
Yeah, well, it's
so interesting.
I don't think dogs are aware.
They don't realize how small they are
of their size and the
right.
disadvantage that it may give them. I mean, you can. But when you see these little dogs, when they're aggressive, it's nature versus nurture. You hear, this goes for pit bulls, this goes for Chihuahuas, everything. There's too much of it's all how you raise them. It is not all how you raise them. How you raise them is part of it. All right. They need to reword that to it's, how you raise them is important, right? But it's not everything. I
was even just talking to a friend recently who has twins. So he was I think they're 5 or 6 years old right now. Grew up in the same environment, grew up by the same rules, got told the same things to do. He goes, they're both boys. He goes, one of my sons is self-sufficient. He'll be like, "Dad, I think I'm dehydrated. Can I go get a glass of water?" "Sure, go get it." He goes, "The other kid is like, he's a maniac. Like he doesn't know, like he would, like if it wasn't for me, this kid wouldn't be around." So it's like the same point. Those two same basically humans were brought up in the same environment. They are completely opposite people. So I imagine that happens with dogs too. Like there's only so much you can control and do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's nature versus nurture. So there are some dogs that you can do everything wrong, You know, you could not follow the advice of anyone who has any sense about dogs, and your dog will not ever really get into big trouble. You may not get the most out of that dog. You may not see that dog's potential, but you're not going to be calling a trainer. You're not going to make the news for the dog biting someone. And then there's other dogs that, even if you do everything right, are going to be more difficult and need more management than even that dog than someone did everything wrong with. So people have to be careful when they take advice from people that say like, oh, well, I have a German Shepherd, or I have a Rottweiler, or I have a Pit Bull, and I did this, and this, and it never caused any problem. All right. But it's like, yeah, that's your dog.
Right.
All right. That's your dog. That same person may have a kid where I let him play as much video games as he wanted. I let him do this. I let him do that. I let him go out with his friends. He didn't have any curfew and didn't cause any problems. All right. That's your kid, and that's his personality. That may not work for another kid or another dog. They do. I mean, dogs have to be respected as individuals, and some of them need the extra guidance and the extra management to stay out of trouble because they have their own genetics that are working against them. So something like pit bulls, right? It's a topic that can cause arguments that are as strong as politics, right? And I've been around a lot of them. I loved tons of them. I've owned them. One of the first dog I hope meets me in heaven is a bully breed, you know, like my favorite dog in the whole world. So they hold a special part in my heart. But to say a pit bull is potentially as safe as a Labrador retriever, you know, when all else is equal, is silly. It's like me. I selectively bred German Shepherds for high levels of aggression to bite people. And I would not just give them to anyone that did not respect that this dog can potentially hurt someone. Same thing. It does not give a pit bull any justice if you disrespect what they are. They were selectively bred from stock that was meant to fight other animals. Majority of them, or at least hold on to other animals.
Do you know like what kind of animals? Like, do you know the pit bull history? Like,
I mean, pit bull it's broad because, you know, a lot of times when we hear pit bull, we're talking about a bunch of different breeds. But the one thing that was in common is they all originate from the old English bulldog, the one that was used.
Really?
It used to, not like the ones that look like little toads that are hopping around now in the U.S.
Right.
The ones that were originally used to fight bulls for a sport.
Wow.
And even before that, they came from
To fight bulls.
To fight bulls for
You mean when you
sport.
say bulls, you mean pit bull?
Meaning bulls, like old McDonald owns. All right,
to fight a bull, a dog versus a bull.
To fight a bull, and these ones at the time, because the modern bulldogs, they're crossed with pugs and things. They selectively breed them to look extreme for the show ring and things like that. They're not what they used to be. The old bulldog used to look much more like a modern pit bull, except for maybe a head that looked a little more like a boxer's head or something.
Yeah,
like
their
that.
head is massive and strong.
And they vary. They vary in the way they looked because they were a performance dog, and they were known for and admired for their tenacity and courage and bravery. It wasn't necessarily thought of as a bad thing if the dog was good at what it was supposed to do. All right. And now it does not mean, I'm not saying, because a lot could be assumed in a short amount of time. You know, if people are going to judge where I'm going with this, like it's a lot of long time has passed since they were fighting bulls, but this was the stock that they used once bull baiting became illegal. Dog fighting was not illegal, so they would have them fight against each other, and they would just mix in whatever, you know, other, you know, some faster breeds of terrier or something like that to make them a little quicker in the ring. But they were basically from
it's just so amazing that we even figured out how to do this.
Yeah, it's if someone has a need, they'll find a way. And dogs, their genetics are so easily manipulated. But these are the same dogs that came to the U.S. and helped farmers work on the farms. And if they needed a dog that was less tenacious, they bred them less tenacious, but they may have needed them to help catch animals, to catch. They use them for hunting bully breeds in general. Like I said, these are the type of things they use for catching wild boar, and to make it humane, used for the right purpose, right? A good bully breed can hold on to a wild boar.
And by the way, a wild boar is like a pretty deadly animal.
Yes.
He messes up. He doesn't.
Yes.
I don't know if he has any true predators.
Yeah, the ones
boar.
in the U.S. Yeah, the ones that were
now we actually have like a pig, because wild boars are basically pig with massive teeth, like they're beast.
Yeah.
And I think right now, like you said, in the U.S., I'm saying this so people understand like just how like dominant those animals are. There's no true predator right now, and they're running rampant in certain states. I think it was Texas and some, like they actually have these things where they're in these like large packs and they're just rummaging through villages.
Yeah.
And they've actually hired people to go up in helicopters and like mow them down with machine guns. Like there's that many of them. They have to like basically execute these wild boars. So I'm just saying that because like if a dog is like taking that down, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it's also to show like dogs, even if they're selectively bred to do this, there's humane uses. A bulldog that holds onto the ears, they usually use them in pairs at least. Each hold onto an ear of a boar, won't shake the ears. They're not looking to tear the ears off. They're looking to hold the boar. It allows a human to come and in one quick, accurate strike, put a dagger into the heart of that boar and to kill it quickly.
Wow.
Compared to it's having like its guts ripped out by like a wild animal, if that's the way it would naturally be, or being mowed down with machine guns and not necessarily hitting everything. It's these bully breeds, they need to be respected for what they are. Now, I was actually just having this conversation yesterday that it is be so easy for someone to selectively breed and have a breeding program of any type of bully breed and selectively breed just for non-aggression and for family pets, because they have so many good qualities and they love their owners and
they're loyal. I bet,
they're
right?
very, very, very loyal. But the thing about bully breeds now is most of the people that are attracted to them enough to breed them are people that don't make good choices. They're breeding them for the way they look, because this one has a big head and looks scary, or this one is a good fighter. They're dog fighters. So you don't know, when you go to a shelter, you don't really know who was responsible for creating that individual bully breed.
There's no Carfax for that.
Yes, there's no Carfax. So there's a chance that if you get one that happens to be as aggressive as the Chihuahua that your friend has, that's growling when it's on someone's lap, if that one has a temperament similar to that one, is raised a certain way with no boundaries, and that dog decides to bite, not only is it stronger, it is better at it, it's more tenacious at it, and it's more likely to cause a serious injury. But that's not talking bad about the breed. That's like, don't buy a Ferrari if you don't know how to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to wrap it around a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get a pit bull or bully breed of some sort if you think it's just all how you raise them and it'll be just like a Labrador retriever. If that was the case, use poodles as police dogs, right? Go take your husky out bird hunting with you. You're going to cut it off leash. It's going to say, oh, let's go roam. Let's run. The hell with the birds. Let's take off, hook a sled to me. We bred dogs for certain purposes, and that has to be respected. And that being said, some of the most loyal, best dogs that I've known, some of my favorite dogs have been bully breeds, but they need to be respected as the individual. And they vary so much. You cannot, because this person has one that has no issues at all, and they don't need to train it, they don't need to give it any boundaries. It doesn't mean you can necessarily do that with the next one. You need to understand that individual dog, but all dogs benefit from structure, training, and guiding the dog to keep the dog out of trouble. And if someone sees signs of aggression with one of these dogs, you just obviously have to take it more seriously than if the Chihuahua is doing it. That's what I have to say about bully breeds. I love bully breeds, but they're misunderstood. But some of the biggest advocates that are trying to make them into poodles are doing the most harm by not respecting them for what they are. Me personally, all the bad injury, every bad injury that I ever saw happen because of a bully breed was because the dog was in the hands of someone that didn't respect the dog for what it is and was just irresponsible about what its capabilities were, not people that were like dog abusers or what you would think. If someone respects a dog as aggressive, they usually keep the dog out of trouble because they're aware of what it can do, and they're not going to take chances with it.
So it's really just from a lack of knowledge.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, that's basically what you're saying.
It's a lack of knowledge. All dogs are good, even the bad ones, even the most aggressive dogs like I've ever encountered are still 99% excellent all the time. We made them that way. We reap what we sow. Basically, we have to respect it. We can't forget where they came from. So they were, not too long ago. I mean, we're talking 100 years ago, they were in the fields. Our dogs in the backyard, they're in the house. Now we're doing selfies, in our bed with the dog on Facebook. So the world has changed a lot quicker than the dogs have been able to. But there's also a boom in professional dog trainers out there because of it. A lot of people are having problems.
It's so funny you just said that, because as you're talking about this, you said something interesting to me last summer. I remember we were talking, and you were talking about how dog training business is definitely like exploding. But the thing, and in America, I would say, as much freedom as we have, there are a lot of rules and regulations on all sorts of businesses. You can do this, you need this license for this, or else you can't practice. And I believe you told me, I mean, I don't know what it's like for a dog breeder, but for a dog trainer, there is no certification. There is no, right? There's no license. Like anybody can just go tomorrow, open a dog training business, say, I'm a dog trainer, and start taking clients, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's a problem. There's no
control.
There's no control. A dog trainer can get.
So you don't know who you're getting.
You don't know who you're getting. I mean, for sure.
And especially these people that, when you, and I'm sorry to knock this, but I'm not a big fan of this. So I'll say it if you don't want to. But the people who train dogs, and I just don't think it's a good system. And I don't know enough about it to say it, but I'm gonna say it. If they take your dog away from you for a week or 2 weeks and say, I'm going to train your dog, in 2 weeks, I'll have your dog back. For me as a dog owner, I don't feel comfortable. It's like somebody saying, like, I have a troubled child, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, just give your kid to me for 2 weeks. When he comes back, he'll be perfect. Like, I don't know what you just did to that dog. Yeah. Did you just put like wires on his head like zap him? Did you give him medication? You showed me videos of the stranglehold when or like the helicopter maneuver where they would take a dog and hold. And I get chills, and I care too much about dogs. I get like choked up when I think about it. But like that sort of abuse, man, I don't know that I'd have to do a background check on this person, because there's no license, because there's no regulation, there's no system for people, there's no process to go through. And I'm not a big regulation person. Like, I don't want people to tell me what to do, but at the same time, I want to be protected.
Yeah.
And I want to be protected from somebody who had maybe one success story with, like you said, like maybe this training that they did for this one dog worked. They could be using that on 100 dogs after that, and it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
Because that person got lucky that one time. They don't know what we're doing. So it terrifies me to think that like somebody would send their dog away for a week or two and then get it back. Because even if that person did well with that dog, and that dog was behaving or it was obeying, whatever the terminology is, when you get that dog back, if you're not instituting the same things, or if you're now, how do you say it? You need to continue to train that dog. It's a consistent thing, because the moment you start giving your dog these freedoms to do whatever it wants, it will. Like, it's not, I don't know if that's true or not, but like, I think about Zoe. Like, if I started giving her like more leash on stuff, pun intended, I guess, she would take advantage of that. She needs every once in a while to be like, oh yeah, that's right, you're the boss.
Yeah.
And if I lose my my consistency, so does the dog. So just to send something away and have it fixed, I can't imagine that's that effective.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of those programs at all. To me, it's like a big it's a disservice to the pet owner that even calls and gets influence to send their dog away for 2 weeks.
And I get it. I'm sure people feel helpless and they're just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, the best training is always done when the owner does it themselves, and it should be an enjoyable bonding experience. What happens, I mean, I cannot speak for every dog training business out there, but from what I've encountered, and I know this industry arguably better than anyone. I've been in this industry a long time. I follow it very, very, very closely. There's been a boom in these like 2-week board and train programs, and you need to think about or know what's really going on with these.
Can you change a dog in 2 weeks? It's like
no. What you have to think of what you can do in 2 weeks. A lot of these trainers, they're taking a bunch of dogs. Now you have to think, if you have someone running a dog training business and they're taking people's dogs for 2 weeks and they're training 4, 5, 6 dogs at a time, and they're running a business and they're on the phone and they're working with owners, and they take that dog and they go behind closed doors with it, and you're just going to see a before after video. What is going on in 2 weeks now?
Is that how they show results?
Yeah,
a before and after
you can
get
get a lot of before.
I was going to say, because that would be another question. Like, how do you actually quantify?
Yeah, you got to think this person is not going to be spending much more time training the dog than you would be able to yourself. And it's going to be lesser quality. And it's going to be forced time. Time is money. It's going to be time is money. Each of these dogs individually are at best are going to get a couple of hours of individual time, because it just doesn't fit logically into a work day. You have to think of that. Which you may, and usually what you have is a lot of just punishment, where they have the dog sitting on platforms for hours at a time. And if they get off, they push a button on an e-collar, drag the dog back on. It's mostly a lot of pushing a button on an electric collar for the dog doing anything that they don't want the dog to do. And
you can almost imagine the dog just being nervous about doing anything then.
Yeah, no. So what it really is, it's like someone doing the dirty work, for you. It's like if you don't have the time, if you don't have time for a dog, you don't have time to even create a relationship with the dog. I mean, all you need to do to train the dog is just spend quality time with it. And you do it in the process. You send your dog to someone and they're just pushing e-collar buttons and dragging the dogs on platforms and holding down a button when it pulls on the leash. And it's that's all they're really doing. They're just doing dirty work for someone that does not want to do it themselves, really, and a lot of them are just cheerleaders. These people, what they're mainly doing is convincing people that this is okay, this is what you have to do. If you don't want to do it, I'll do it for you. Mm-hmm. And then they hand the person back a remote control with a button, and the only thing they taught their dog is, if you have this thing on, that if you, whatever you're doing, stop what you're doing, or I'm going to press the button. That's all it really is. It doesn't form a relationship. It's there's so much potential, in dogs and what they can give to an owner if you just spend time with them and you train the dog yourselves and you teach the dog first what is right. You have to teach the dog what is right, and when you teach them what is right, and that by obeying you, good things happen in life. When you do use punishment in training, and when I say punishment, I'm not talking about any type of training collar. I just mean once you start discouraging wrong behaviors in any form, from any type of collar, the punishment should be minimal, because if you taught them first what is the right thing, it's just meant to direct them right back to what you showed them is good. And they should get more love. Punishment should be used to show the dog how to get more good things in life. But you need to show them those things first, and then the punishment just gets them back on track. You don't do training by starting off with that and teaching them everything is bad, and you listen to me, and then just leave them on a platform or just leave them in the kennel, or they're barking in it. This is a new thing I see, is trainers that they put dogs in crates because these professional dog trainers don't even have real kennel setups or real boarding kennels. They put them in these little boxes for hours, and when the dog is whining because it is miserable, they're just lighting them up like Christmas trees with their electric collars instead of asking the dog, why are you crying? Why are you upset? The dog is telling you that the dog is saying, I am miserable here with you, and you're just going to light the dog up. I don't want to hear it. Shut the F up.
Mm-hmm.
I got paid. Stay quiet. You know, I'm here to fix all these things your owner complains about, instead of telling the owner why your dog is doing this and how to make this a better relationship for both of you. You know, and it's not what trainers should be doing. You know,
and one of the things I heard you and all of your trainers say is that our intention is for the best interest of the dog.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes. It has to be the dog first. It has to be the dog first, or you're not doing that dog any favor.
And you made a great point. If you don't have time to train a dog, you don't have time for a dog.
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate that, because that's, you know, it's like having, again, it's like coming back to having children. If you have a child and then you don't want to deal with that responsibility, I'm sorry, you probably shouldn't have had that child. It's not somebody else's responsibility now because you don't want to commit to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's like, I just had to be hard on people, because I believe that.
Absolutely.
And then you see like these kennels, these shelters filled up with dogs because people don't want them, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Like, the dogs didn't do anything wrong. They're here at the mercy of us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a choice in the matter of getting out of that cage. All they can do is bark and say, I'm unhappy, you're a jerk, let me out of here. And like you said, they get lit up by some e-collar.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
And now with that being said, for sure, I believe there's valid reasons someone could send the dog away to be trained, but
last resort, probably, right?
Yeah, not even last. Sometimes they want specialized training, and they want, but a dog being sent away, it's the owner should still know every step of the training that is being done and be involved with it. And they're just paying that trainer for the labor of doing the original teaching, not punish it. It should not be about punishing. It should be teaching. And, you know, sometimes someone's going away on vacation or something like that. And like, you know, instead of my dog sitting in the kennel, let me send the dog away to a trainer that will give the dog a good experience and an education, but don't send the dog to a trainer that's just going to take your money, shove it in a crate, line it up on platforms around a bunch of other dogs, and just push a button and drag it. A lot of things these trainers are doing with the dogs, all you got to do is buy an e-collar, pull out the manual, and it's going to explain how to do what they're doing in like 2 pages. You know, push the button, drag the dog onto something. If the dog doesn't do what you want, push a button. You could suppress any behavior. Put an e-collar on a person. You don't need to be trained to just stop a dog from doing anything. Most dogs will stop any behavior if you crank up an e-collar high enough and press a button. And that's all it is. It's all it really is. There's no reward.
You're marking behavior, basically, right? For good or bad.
For good or bad. Yeah, they're marking everything the dog does with electric shock. So sometimes me and Nate, you met Nate. So
Nate the dog man.
Nate the dog man. Daniel Bonilla. I've been working with him for years on projects, and he had me laughing.
He's an incredible story, by the way, because I saw him, I don't know how long it was, 10 years ago. Nate was like this gigantic of a being, sort of like me, like he was heavy. And I don't know if it was simultaneously, but Nate has himself, I'm curious, I want to have Nate on this at some point as well. Maybe you guys will come back together and we'll do it all together. He had some sort of transformation in his life, and I wonder how much of it was through a relationship with a dog.
Oh, dogs training.
Because Nate even talked about as a child, like he used to have like I had an imaginary friend, which I joked about before. Nate had an imaginary dog as a child.
Wow. Yeah.
Like he would always talk to his dog, and his mom would be like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "I'm talking to my dog."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yep. Yeah. Nate's always been an animal.
But
person.
Nate's an amazing trainer, just because I see his videos, like when he's in Peekskill, and he's just like, he walks around with his dog. His name is Havoc.
Mm-hmm.
And that dog is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Yeah, he controls that dog well. He has a great relationship with the dog. And Nate was the first one that kind of brought it to my attention with some of the owners, because that's, I told you earlier in this, in this cast that I started off mostly doing in kennel training. And then Nate said, what some of these owners really just need is just like stuffed animal. It's, he said we should just do a program called the permanent downstay. Just give us here. We'll euthanize the dog. We'll bring it to a taxidermist, put some wheels on it. Here, it'll stay as long as you want. It won't give you any trouble. You don't really have to give it any quality time. And like we used to joke about it. Like we'll have that'll be our budget program. We have like we'd have like a 4-week program, which is real basics. We usually take dogs for like 6 weeks to give the dog a real education, 8 weeks if I had an aggression issue. And then he was like, let's do like a 1-day program, permanent downstay. Just take it, bring it to the taxidermist, give it back, budget program. And that's what some people want. And that's these 2-week programs. That's what they are. These are the new permanent downstay programs.
So I guess for somebody, I mean, this is a good question to ask now. When somebody, again, this is not a sales pitch for yourself, but when somebody is, if they do have a dog, whatever their situation is, whether they want obedience, whether they want dog protection, scent protection, simple stuff up to complicated stuff, how should they find the right trainer? Like, are there things to look out for? Are there like certain markers, just even in messaging, where it's like, yeah, that person's going to do these e-collar BS stuff? And like, how do they decipher who's a good trainer in it?
It is very difficult right now because, like I said, there are very little regulations. Even there are trainers that are certified, meaning like they pass some test somewhere, but
right. But there's no government, there's no federal, state certification.
Yeah, they don't answer to someone. There's no like if you have like, there's no negligence. You're not losing your ability to service the public and be trusted. There's no authority out there really. So it's a problem. You don't know what you're going to get. And it's a public, it's a public safety issue at the very least. That's why eventually it will be.
I like when you say that, because the public safety issue, and it's a public safety issue because of this, the few times, I guess it's increasing when something happens, right? It's like, that's why it's a public safety issue, because people are not learning a good, efficient way to train, and their dogs are exhibiting poor behaviors. Like when you say it's a public safety issue,
there's 2 things that you'll see. One is just you'll get some kind of coverage in the press when someone gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be sometimes, here's some examples. You'll have a dog in a rescue and they have their own trainer and they say this dog was aggressive and it's rehabilitated. And then they put the dog in some home and the dog ends up killing somebody. All right. Or someone, and that trainer 100% probably did not really know that just because this dog will suppress its behavior and lay on a platform all day with its e-collar on, that when it goes to the house, to this new home, and grandma takes the e-collar off, or doesn't know how to use it, or uses it incorrectly, or for numerous other reasons, that this dog is not really rehabilitated. It was just suppressed. So sometimes you have things like that where no one really knew better. It was not anyone trying to screw anyone over. Just someone did not have the education to know it does not really work. It does not really work like that. Or you'll have a family with a baby, and they have their Rottweiler with testicles bigger than mine sitting on the couch. It's growling at the baby. And they call the trainer over, and this trainer says, oh, well, he is just anxious because it's a new baby and you need to show him more love, that he's still loved, and do not understand any concepts about
they're just saying it's jealousy.
Yes, about they don't understand any concepts about conflict or real things that exist that are taught in the real world in real universities, like dominance and first right to limited resource, and and what can cause conflict and dominance. And people get hurt, people get killed, and the people that give this advice that often leads to the bite, loss of limbs, disfigurement, death, they don't answer to anyone. There's no negligence. And matter of fact, sometimes these organizations that give their certifications are also they're not answering to anyone either. They can teach whatever they want. They can teach whatever they want. The founders of these organizations could teach what they ever want and recommend these people attend their seminars and buy their books to keep their certifications instead of giving them real books about real behavior that are taught in real universities and things like that. It's not regulated, so it's not a problem. So you have to be your own advocate. I always suggest. I mean, if someone needs to send their dog away to an in-kennel program, it gets much more difficult to recommend a trainer. If someone's going to work with a private trainer, that is always the best way, because you will see what that person is doing, and you have to feel good about it in your heart. If you feel like someone is trying to convince you or hype you up to do something that you don't feel comfortable with, usually something is wrong if they're doing a lot of justification. Good train, and I tell you, I use treats in training. I use every training collar. I even use e-collar training. At no time do I ever feel like I have to convince anyone to do anything. I give people options. Whatever they use generally happens naturally, and the training session is always a good experience for both the dog and the human at every step of the way. And that's how it should always feel. But if you question, your own heart, there's probably something wrong. It should never feel that way. And I call that having the correct attitude in dog training. Meaning, if you have a trainer that tries to create an attitude that your dog is just a jerk or needs to get taught a lesson, remember, attitude, they need to create.
There's nothing wrong with the dog.
There's nothing. A trainer first needs to create an attitude attitude leads to behavior, right? So if they can create an attitude and lead you to believe that your dog is a jerk, or this dog, or this dog needs to be taught a lesson, they need to do that first to lead to the behavior where you feel good about, oh, this is what I'm going to do to teach this jerk a lesson. If a trainer starts off by creating the attitude that is true, that this is an animal that we created, that we domesticated. He's working on his instincts. This is not his fault. This dog is not a dick. This dog is not a jerk. This dog is scared. All right. This dog is confused. This dog is conflicted. That's the
and a
attitude.
lot of times when dogs are scared, I don't want to simplify it too much, but a lot of times when dogs are scared, they bite.
Yes. So when we create an attitude that reflects real behavior, it will lead to better behavior from the trainer and you towards that dog, and a better training program. And you're not going to mind taking your time. All right. And you're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it. That's the way it should be.
It's so rewarding when you have a dog that obeys and you have this relationship with each other. And it's really rewarding to get that. But you can't get to that point unless you do the work. It's like anything else. You don't even, this is the other thing. Let's say the 2-week boarding things were great. Let's say they did work. You're not anything worthwhile in this life. You want to earn, so like if somebody, compare this to like weight loss, there's liposuction and then there's having a healthy lifestyle. When you just go and get liposuction, you look fine, but you didn't go through the process of getting to that point. You didn't actually earn it. There's no gratification in that experience. When you're able to do anything, and especially if it's a dog, and like people used to say, like my dog it always looked happy and it was the best dog they ever. I know people like probably hear that about their dogs all the time, but like Zoe was just amazing. Like she listened, she cuddled, she knew how to do like a couple of different tricks. she was always like staring at me and like making eye contact, which I don't know what that means. I think it means something about affection. So research says, but who knows what's actually going on in a dog's brain. But we used to call her Zoe Brows because she had these eyebrows. She had these white marks on her eyebrows, and they would actually make facial expressions. And you can tell when she was happy and sad and hungry and excited. And she was able to do all these things. And she fetched and, your typical stuff. Like she knew how to sit, she knew how to roll over. Um, she was even the type of dog where like every time you took out your cell phone and took a selfie, she would actually look into the camera. It's just like this amazing learned behaviors that she had. But if I just like got that dog and somebody just gave it to me, I wouldn't even feel like it was mine. I'd be like, oh yeah, she's this way because I had her trained. It was so nice to have that. So for best case scenario, worst case scenario, however you want to look at it, it's just the most gratifying way to have a relationship with your dog when you actually do the work and you guys do it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's related to people too.
All the time.
Yeah.
All this stuff is always interconnected
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah.
They really are. So some bite stuff. What are those suits made out of?
Oh, those suits.
You guys sweat in those. What a funny thing that Nate said to you. He's like, I had it on video. I don't even know if you realized he was joking about, but he's like, man, these things smell. He's like, or maybe you said it to Nate, but they're like, you can wash. Nate said it to you. He goes, you can wash these, right, Mike?
I like to wait till I'm looking.
Those things are covered in years of sweat.
Listen,
and
my theory is if I wait long enough and I get enough living like bacteria and living organisms in there, they may like evolve enough to start like
there's going to be a body inside of that.
Yeah. They'll agitate on its own. Or it'll agitate on its own.
So agitate. So that brings. So you get into a bite suit, and I guess once you're in, so the bite suit, you're part of Bite Club, which I love the name of that. And then you become an agitator. So the idea behind putting on a suit is because you're going to go into harm's way. You're going to do something that triggers the dog, maybe triggers the wrong word, but triggers the dog to want to be aggressive in some way. But to have the handler there to give permission and say, when you guys say, what a lot of the trainers say, free, like Nate was saying free to Havoc, and Havoc and we had the GoPro on you, and Havoc would just like run up and, so Havoc is actually, is Havoc the Dutch Shepherd?
Yeah, Havoc's needs a Dutch Shepherd.
So that dog, so for people, so there's German Shepherds and Dutch Shepherds. German Shepherds are a pretty big dog, average weight 80 to 100 pounds or more, 110 pounds for a German Shepherd.
It seems that way, right? They're like bigger than life when they're being aggressive.
But Dutch Shepherds are much smaller. But it looked like the Dutch Shepherd had a stronger bite than the German Shepherd.
Well, what you see more intensity usually, which is different from strength. So a big working line German Shepherd, I think the standard, the high range is like 86 pounds or something
for a German Shepherd.
But 86 pounds on like a trim German Shepherd, that's a powerful dog. And Havoc, I mean, I'd have to ask Nate. He probably
60, 70 pounds?
Fluctuates. Yeah, those dog, my guess is he's in his 70s, maybe.
But Nate's dog like jumps through car windows for a bite, and like he'll do like all these things.
Yeah, so that it's
and then there was the other guy, Little Joe. He also has a Dutch Shepherd.
Yeah,
Little John. Sorry, he has a Dutch Shepherd, and he had the dog bite you he had the dog on top of his shoulders, like he was wearing like a scarf, and he did a bite. So that's like fun stuff that you guys can do.
Yeah, we have fun.
I mean, that's fun. That's not exactly what you do, but it just shows like the level of where you could go with this.
Yeah, I mean the Dutch Shepherds and Malinois. It's the way I mean they're becoming popular in the pet market, which I don't like to see. Because the dogs end up suffering when they're not fulfilled, although they are, which I'm totally fine with.
Because again, the Dutch Shepherds are designed to protect, right?
Well, yeah, they're designed to work. So yeah, protection is part of it, but they're intense. Like they want to go. They have a lot of prey drive that they want to fulfill, and they're a fun dog for a lot of like serious hobbyists and trainers. Like I guess you could relate it to someone's like really into cars, or someone's, if their profession is a mechanic, like their own dog, their own car, they may have like some supercharged like muscle car.
Right.
They can have fun with it. So it's the same thing with these. Like if a trainer loves what they do and they want a fun dog to play with, these are great because you could do almost anything with them. And
But they need a lot of attention.
and it's going to be intense. Yeah. But if someone gets one because they were impressed with what they saw, or they think they look nice, and they're working a full-time job and they want the dog to just mostly hang around the house, it's like they're setting them and their dog up for success, and they're not doing that dog any favor by taking one.
Oh, you
on.
mean they're setting them up for failure?
Yeah. I mean for failure. Yes, they're setting everyone up for failure, and then those are the dogs that end up with the e-collar. They end up calling the 2-week board and train program to have the dog do a permanent downstay on a board, right? And that's what ends up happening. But like otherwise, it's like owning a Ferrari. It's a Ferrari of dogs. Me personally, I've owned a bunch of Dutch Shepherds and Malinois, but I've always owned them temporarily. Like I've had them, done training, had fun, used them for a purpose, and then transferred them to someone who is going to do more than what I can do, because I would give most attention. I was doing a lot of my initial training and having fun, but the more I would be stretched thin doing other projects, I never wanted to own one because I love playing with them. I love doing stuff with them, but I've always felt for them and I couldn't give them enough attention. That always happened every time that I owned one. I moved it on to the next place.
Yeah, you're respectable to the dog.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
in that
respectful.
Way.
I've always kind of like, for the average person that wants to dabble in protection training, I always liked the German Shepherds because they're like a notch down in intensity. Although you will find some specimens, that are not far off or similar to a Malinois or Dutch Shepherd, but you got to know where you're gonna get them from. I mean, the bloodlines there's so many bloodlines, and you can get some that have been selectively bred to basically be like guide dogs for the blind, than other ones that are, jumping through windows to bite people and take a beating and come back for more and really love it. But I always loved the protection training. I loved it for multiple reasons. One is the obvious. It's an adrenaline rush. I'm 40. How old am I?
39.
39. All right, we'll say 39. All right. I'm old enough to forget how old I am. All right. Am I 43? I don't know. 75.
If you feel old, I was just telling somebody this yesterday. If you feel old, it means you're hanging out with too many younger people. Just hang out with older people, and then you'll feel young again.
Yeah. I mean, I get my adrenaline rush from it. I'm not playing sports or anything like that. And I like my 40s, but this is I've noticed I like my 40s better than my 30s. You know why? Because in my 30s, I was starting to get a little cocky. Like I felt like I knew a lot of stuff.
Ooh.
But no one respects you in your 30s. I noticed my favorite thing. This is probably why I don't shave that much.
I'm 36, by the way. So thank you for that enlightenment that nobody respects me.
This is what happens. We're getting off topic, but look,
I love this.
This is why I didn't shave. Look, I got some gray hair. I got some gray hairs over here. To me, it's like once you get a little grays, it's like the silverback gorilla. It's like, oh, that one could lead a troop. All right. It's like, it makes me feel, I think subliminally people are like, all right, maybe he has enough experience where I'll listen to him.
Mike, 100%. I was just the landlord of this building. So my office is in the Hat Factory, which is in Peekskill. A very awesome man named Ben Green owns this building. He just turned 50. So he said, and I don't know how it even come up. I see him in the parking lot and we talk. He's an awesome guy. He's really helped me out in hard times when I've had here, because when you're on your own business, sometimes like money's tight. And he's just, I'm not going to tell you how he helped me out, but he saved my business at least once. But so we talk about stuff, and I've gotten really close to him. So he just turned 50. And I was like, so what is it like being 50? And he's like, I got to be honest. He's like, 50's freaking awesome. He goes, I still got, he goes, it hurts a little bit when I do something physical, but I can still do it. He's like, it just hurts a little bit more the next day, but he's like, I'm loving it. And he's like, how old are you? And I was like, I just turned 36. And he's like, yeah, he's like, 36 is pretty good too. He's like, you're just getting to the point where people actually believe in what you say.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
actually said that to me, and it's interesting. So I started reflecting on that, and I'm like, man, I started my business when I was 23, 24 years old. And I'm looking back on what people used to think of me when I walked into meetings or when I used to say I could do stuff for them. And I'm like, that was kind of crazy. I had no business like telling people. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, even now, I know what I'm doing, but still, like things change so much. You're constantly always learning something new. So I never really consider myself an expert in this. Like I like to tell stories. I think that's what I'm good at. The foundation of storytelling has not changed. You know, there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a setup. There's a resolution. There's the hero and there's the villain. That I think for as long as there's been storytelling will never change. So that maybe I'm an expert in. But video, I don't know. I watch stuff. Um, I watched something put together on Facebook. It was I think me and you talked about this before, but Mike Rowe had this show called Returning the Favor. It was just a Facebook show.
Yeah.
Totally blew my mind on how, and I don't know if people look at shows the same way I do, because I'm looking at how many cameras there are, how they shot it, angles, equipment, all this different stuff. And they just changed the way that I looked at how you could make a show and how that could be put together, what that would look like and feel like. Man, things are always changing. But so just back to like being at that age. Yeah, man. I mean, actually, they say in research, for men at least, between 40 and 60 is when we make the most money in our lives. And it has to be, so there was a couple of reasons for that. I love when we go off topic. It's fun. One of the reasons is we're no longer thinking from purely testosterone. Your testosterone levels go down. So you actually have more rational thinking. It's not chemical thinking. Like I tell kids, like, cause I teach high school kids, like film and stuff. And I tell them, like, 14 to 18-year-olds, and I'm like, don't even worry about who you are right now, because it's not you. You are being infused constantly with your own hormones that are telling you to do things that you don't even have to think about. You're not using your brain yet. And I tell the same thing to girls. I'm like, listen, these guys don't trust a word that they say when they're 18, 19, 20, because they don't even know what they're saying yet. I look back when I was 20 and I was like, you used to say some crazy stuff, and that wasn't coming from the brain. That was coming from someplace else. Use your imagination. So I think for us, like, we're in that sweet spot. And I think that's why it's important for you to even, for me to start doing things like this, for you to start doing things like this, because we're in that sweet spot. And this is where we can really make an impact. Like, this is our impact years. Maybe we should call it in a way. This is really when you're going to do the most damage, so to speak. And I think people do appreciate the gray hairs and you look seasoned. And then they see, like, when you say you've been doing this since 94, I mean, that's a long time, man. I mean, they said, what is it? Like, it's, there's that book Outliers, which talks about, like, you do something for, it's 1,000 or 10,000 hours of concentrated practice, and you become a pro at that. So, like, I've finished that in editing. Like, I know how to edit. Like, I've done 10,000 hours. I know you've done 10,000 hours in dog training. So now that you have that experience and the goods and the positive, and you have, your brain has elevated and your testosterone has gotten a little lower, now you're in a great position to communicate the actual message and not worrying about a lot of other things. That's my side rant.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because also I feel like I'm just getting started. Like the longer I go on, it's like, this is just getting started. I have way more to go, way more to learn.
I know you are constantly learning, because even with your foundation, like, you're always updating it. Like you talk about, it's like a software. And so, yeah, you have to be learning. Like, I look at my dad. My dad just learned that he was not Italian. He did that DNA test, and he found that he's Greek. Oh man, he struggled with that. All of a sudden, he's eating, like, he went from eating pasta every day. Now he just eats feta cheese and like olives.
That's it. Give me that. Give me that linguine.
So yeah, if you're not learning, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're stagnant. And I think if you're stagnant, you're ultimately you're going backwards or dying.
Yeah, you need to keep learning. I tell everyone that I learn more. To me, it snowballs. I learn, the longer I do this, I learn more every year than I did in the beginning, because I get hungrier and hungrier, and I build upon what I already know.
Did you find you learned more from teaching, or again, it's a quote from somewhere. I can't pull it out of my head, but because I've heard this before, that you learn more from teaching than from doing.
Yes. Well, both. I mean, I think you gotta, yeah, it's, we have it on it's plastered on my YouTube channel, right? Learn, do, teach. It's like
Right,
first you need to learn it, then you have to do it. It's like you don't want to be preaching to anyone something that you have not done yourself, and you're not going to have any credibility. And two, you're really not going to know what you're talking about. You're not going to be able to relate. But then through teaching, it does. It makes you better. Teaching does not just make you a better teacher. It makes you self-reflect on things that you have not been communicating or you have not been doing. Because if you try to repeat what you know by teaching someone and they're not getting the same results, there's something that you're not teaching. And it could be something that you were doing that you did not even realize you were doing, or you did not realize how important it was.
You learn to become a more effective communicator.
Yes. And that's also why I said, like, I got better as a trainer when I moved from doing in kennel training to private lessons to doing large group, because large group, there's no cutting corners. Everyone has dogs, different levels, everything. You can't fake it. You cannot fake it. You need to find the common denominator with each person and each dog. And that's why my training has become so technical. Yeah. So my personal training is, to me, it's a passion. I treat it like software. Like, I am very, very technical about it. And if I make a change, like, I know when I changed it, I knew who I taught something to, that I would want to update them on something that I've taught, and I'll change it I'll change something that I teach. My base stuff. I have my base that I think works for most people, most dogs, common denominators. But if I change it, I record it, and I keep track of my training like software, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0.
I don't think many other trainers are doing that. I mean, from what you're telling me, because that's what I asked. Like, how do we really quantify results and progress, or do we even are we even looking for results, and how do we measure that? 'Cause that's important. If you're going to develop a system, you have to be able to measure it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have a way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I measure my results mostly on the owner of the dog, and if they're happy, right? Like, I don't measure results on this dog goes into a down quick or a sit quick. It's
Right.
like, is this person happy with their dog? Is the dog happy? All right. Because I can see things from the dog, from just like staring at dogs and their body language forever. Like, I'll see things the dog is telling me that the owner's not going to see. And if I see a dog that's loving life and the owner that's loving life with their dog, I don't care how sloppy that obedience is. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's successful, because that's what I went in it for. If not, I would go into competition or something, have the quickest, straightest sit and heel. And I don't really like that stuff. To me, that stuff's kind of like a big charade. A lot of these like competitive dogs, like, they live miserable lives. Like, they're stuffed in crates when they're not on the competition field, getting beat up through the training, or just like left hungry all the time. So they'll work for food constantly.
We always watch. It's a tradition on Thanksgiving to watch the parade, and then right after the parade, the Macy's parade, they have that dog show.
Oh yeah,
and
like
I always
those
wonder.
dogs too.
Wonder with those dogs.
What those dogs' lives are like. Yeah, and that's gonna, some of those dogs live in.
Some of them look really
kennels.
happy.
Some of them are very, very pampered.
And some of them look like,
do
I really got to do this?
Yeah, so I was talking about dogs that are like competitive obedience.
Okay.
I
didn't even know that really existed.
Yeah, competitive obedience. Matter of fact, one of the first formal places I went to learn was Tom Rose School in Missouri. And there's this guy, Tom Rose. And at the time I went there, I went there in 1997. He was considered almost like the Michael Jordan of dog training. I mean, he made a name for himself internationally, and not only Schutzhund, which is like a dog sport that has protection, track, and obedience, also in AKC obedience, which is mostly just obedience, and done in the US. And he was successful at both of them. And he had this school. And one thing that I learned, sometimes you learn a lot from the things that you don't like, like, I went there because I love dogs. And that school still has a good name for itself by producing people that do really well in competitive like sports and stuff. But I learned very little about how to enjoy my dog and to like love the dog, be respectful to the dog, but a lot about how to make a good competition dog, which involved treating the dog like crap most of the time and giving them actually a worse lot. A lot of them don't live nearly as well as just your average pet dog. Yeah, it might be the best trained dog you ever saw, but he would tell me himself, it was like, you can't really treat these. If you want to be very competitive, it's, you don't do as much with the dog. This dog is in a crate. You make the dog hungry. You leave the dog hungry to so it wants to bite more. It wants to do things. There's a lot of things to make the dogs like super intense to look really good and sharp on a field. Very, very strict obedience, where if I tell the dog to sit or to lay down, I don't care how slow he goes. He could flop over. He could relax. If you're in competition, that dog better sit perfectly straight, down, right to the ground. Everything look perfect, or you're going to lose points. So now you got to be careful what you do if that dog is your pet dog, because you're going to mess up that presentation. So what happens to a lot of these dogs? Like a lot of them, like they live.
Yeah, it's just doing it for the wrong reasons.
It's doing it for the wrong reasons. Yeah. It takes away from the heart of why I even wanted a dog. It's like, I don't even see the point to most of the competitive obedience. It's a lot of it's charades. I do personal protection training. I base the protection training off of the dog's instinct to protect the owner because they love the owner. Almost anywhere we see competitive protection training, it has nothing to do with really loving or protecting the owner. Most of it has to do with the dog's desire to bite cloth that that an agitator is wearing or has on their arm or is dressed in it. And a lot of them don't even really have good relationships with the handlers that are on the field. So it's just like, it's fake. It's a big charade to me. I don't enjoy it at all. I never really did. As soon as I saw what it was about, I knew it was not for me at all. Fake obedience, fake protection, the dog is being tricked basically to do everything on the field, but it looks to the observer like the real thing, but it's acting. It's a big circus act to me. That's how I personally feel about it. But I know there's people that go out there and do it and they have fun. They enjoy doing it. And they do not care more about getting their points than just doing something with their dog. There are those people out there. But once it sort of crosses that line where it's more about the recognition of the handler and putting a title on that dog so they could sell a puppy or do this or something, to me, it's stupid. Me personally, I just think it's stupid.
I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah.
So we've been talking for... Mike, this is 2 hours.
Oh, we're talking 2 hours? Okay.
2 hours.
Yes, you better go on. Where am I?
The 2 hours is I think it's a good... I feel like 2 hours might be the right time.
Yeah, okay.
It just feels like a good time to stop.
Yeah. Have you noticed I'm wearing my...
I'm just here for the food. I have no
food shirt. I don't see any food here.
I have no food here. I got to talk to you before you leave. I got a fish tank over there.
Yeah, I saw it.
And I think I have some brown algae growing in there. And I want you to... So it's really funny. So real quick on this. So I have just on my fish. And you love animals, so I feel like we could talk about fish real quick.
Yes, I'm on it.
So all my fish are named. I don't want to talk about Stacy. I'll talk to you about Stacy off camera because there's a very specific reason why that fish name is named Stacy. But so I have 2 tiger barbs, 2 swordtails, and a catfish. Now the tiger barbs, they are aggressive. Normally, like they like to bully each other. So they tell you to have basically they're school fish, right? So they said at least 6. Some people say 4. So I had 5 in there at one point. And Snowball is the bully. Snowball is the male. And if you look there's one fish. So right now, you see that fish in the corner? That's just kind of like, you see it by the SpongeBob pineapple thing? He's having yes. So you see, like he's all crooked. So Snowball, so his name is Tops. Tops is losing his fins because Snowball just picks on him all day long and just nibbles at his under fins. I don't know what they're called. There's like ones that are to the side and then there's ones underneath the belly. And that's why he's always angled down, because he doesn't have those fins anymore to balance him out. So anyway, so I started with 4 or 5 tiger barbs, and now there's 2 because Snowball just picks on the other tiger barb until they die. So he's been killing the other fish. So I'm trying to figure out. So I bought them like different places to hide. I've been doing research, but you see what's happening right now? He just keeps on nibbling at his thing, and Tops is trying to hide and just survive. And this Snowball will just not leave him alone. So I don't know. I have an aggressive fish in there. I don't know if it's the algae. I don't know what it is, but I got to figure out the fish in there. Maybe you can help me with that.
Okay, we'll see. I'll take a look at this.
So real quick before you go, so we got K9-1 specialized. For people that are going to be listening to this, they can find you obviously on the YouTube, which is called K9-1 Specialized Dog Training. I know you got Facebook.
Yeah, you can dogtraining.media brings to the YouTube channel. The website where I have a lot of free information is dogtraining.world. And, those are 2 main links where you can get most information about what I am doing. Somewhere you can join a email list if you fish around on the YouTube channel or on the website. I do send out some emails. I do coaching for dog trainers. I do live once I do live streaming on the back end of my website, so I could give some more individual attention, and that's the dogtraining.world. Right now I'm finishing up on 1 class, so I'm not taking any new members on that site, but I do have a list. You could sign up for an email list, and if you're interested in anything that I do, and I have replays of all the dog training lectures that I do on the back end of my website. The class I'm working on now, I have about at least 30 hours worth of information and coaching that is recorded, and can be used for replay. And I have private forums and live chat and resources, and I collect studies that relate to dog training. So it's a nice spot for continuing education. So if anyone's interested, go to dogtraining.world. And if you go to register, you can't register right now, but you will be soon. I'll open registration up probably within a couple of weeks. Put your name on the email list. That website, I've been running it for at least a decade. So there's like a decade worth of like Q&As and forums on there, and
there may not be. So find him wherever it is. K9-1 Specialized Dog Training. Find him, send him a message, get on the email list. I don't know if anybody has as much information as you. There might be somebody who has more, but I don't know them. So for now, you got all the info. So check him out. Mike, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's 2 hours. How the hell do we do 2 hours?